So here's that animal that I thought was gonna die, and here he is. I mean, he's doing a lot better. I'm actually taking a look at him, and he's not drooping his ear anymore. You can actually see he's picked up his ear. You can actually see his ears kind of been picked up. And so I'm taking a look at him, and I'm like, I'll probably let him out tomorrow. I'm gonna leave him in here. You can actually there he is right there. You can see that he's not drooping his head anymore. And he's got his face in the feed, right? I've got him on this ration. This animal will let me get right up on him now. He doesn't even run away from me anymore. I got him on this ration. It's alfalfa, a commodity pellet mix. So I got him on some alfalfa and commodity pellet, and you can take a look at him. He's been squared away, and I'm pretty certain. Tomorrow I'll probably let him out of here, and I'll let him join the rest of the animals. I'll probably put him out in the front. And so there he is right there. He's doing good. And y'all want to see the animals that I got in the front, the 10 animals that I brought in. Let me get out here real fast. I don't want to freak these animals out. So, but here, let me get around the back over here so I don't freak them out. Give me a second. But here they are right here. These are the 10 animals that I have in the front yard. And I brought these animals in about a week ago, and here they are. I think it was a week ago. I'm pretty sure it was a week ago. It may have been 2 weeks ago. I don't remember exactly. It may have been 2 weeks ago, actually. But here they are. You can see them. That's the 10 animals in the front, and they're all doing good. I actually have these animals on a. So here's the grass that they're chewing on, and I'll actually be fertilizing this grass again. I'll be fertilizing the grass again tomorrow. And you can tell that they really chewed on it. They chewed on it pretty good. And I haven't fertilized the field in about a month. And so as of right now, I'm taking a look at it, and I think it's a good time to start refertilizing. They really chewed on it. They really chewed it up real good. And I would say that right now the grass is probably maybe it's probably about a foot tall. And so I think, I've been taking a look at the whole situation. I got a 90% chance of it raining on Wednesday. And so I'll be refertilizing the grass tomorrow. And right now I have these animals on this grass. And if you take a look at the quality of the grass, it's not exactly a very high quality grass, right? I mean, the grass has, and this is also a winter wheat. It's a forage wheat, and it's been real hot. And it was kind of dry for about 2 weeks, and the winter wheat really fried up. And I got more rain coming in this week. I got rain coming in, and so I was taking a look at the whole thing, and I believe it is time to refertilize the grass. I'm gonna refertilize the fields, and it's time to refertilize the fields. But right now I have these animals. That's what the grass looks like, and here's the ration that I have the animals on. I have the animals on the front on the same ration. I mix distilled grains with corn. I mix 2 parts of corn with 1 part of distilled grains, and then I feed it to them. Oh, they actually ate the whole trough already. So I have these animals on that grass, and I have these animals on. This is the ration that I have them on. I have them on a little bit of grain, and it's 2 parts corn and 1 part distilled grains. And the animals, they're not having any diarrhea or anything. They're not having acidosis. And so, they're putting on more weight with the corn. And so, right now I got them on a corn and distilled grains ration. And tomorrow morning I'll go and get some fertilizer, and I'll refertilize the grass. And here are the animals. But some of the animals got a little bit of diarrhea on their rear end because they've been eating a lot of wet grass. It rained about 2 days ago. It rained about 3 days ago. And when the animals eat wet grass, they'll also have diarrhea. And so that's why you see on their rear ends, it looks like the animals have diarrhea, but they're not showing any other signs of acidosis. Other signs of acidosis would be a snotty nose. If they got a lot of snot coming out their nose, that's a sign of acidosis. And another sign of acidosis is when they start bloating. If they start bloating, and also if you take if they start bloating and they start having snot coming out their nose, and also they'll usually stop eating too if they're having acidosis. And so I'm not really seeing any signs of acidosis. Okay, I'm not seeing any signs of acidosis, but I do see some diarrhea on the rear ends of the animals. and the diarrhea is probably from eating wet grass. And right now I'm only feeding 3 buckets of corn and a bucket and a half of distiller grains. So it's not a lot for all of the animals. The 10 animals in the front, and these the 10 animals in the front get about 3/4 of a bucket of corn, and then I give them about a quarter bucket of it's like 2/3 of a bucket of corn and 1/3 of a bucket of distiller grains is what the animals in the front get. And then these animals back here, they get 2 buckets of corn and 1 bucket of distiller grains. And so, you know, I got 20 animals back here, and then I got 10 animals in the front, and then I got the 2 animals in the preconditioning pen. And the 2 animals in the preconditioning pen are getting that alfalfa commodity pellet mixture because I'm really working on getting the sick animals squared away. And then one of the animals is having a little bit of a digestive issue. And when they're having digestive issues and they're that small, it's usually because their rumen has not been developed properly. All right, their rumen needs more time to develop. And if their rumen needs more time to develop and you feed them straight corn, they will probably have massive levels of acidosis. And when they're that small, they will probably die very quickly. Okay, they'll get sick very quickly. And so depending on the size of the animal, it's very important, right? A lot of emphasis on this idea, depending on the size of the animal, it is very important. It's different, all right? When they're small and they're showing signs of indigestion, there's a very real possibility that their rumen has not been developed yet. And if their rumen has not been developed yet and you feed them straight corn, or if you eat, okay, the thing about feeding an animal, here's some diarrhea, or not some diarrhea, here's some poop, and so that looks good, right? It's not too clumped up, it's not too loose. It's a good manure. And so the thing about when you have a small animal, even if you feed them a mixed ration, even if you mix it up, let's say you mix up the corn and the distiller grains and the hay, and you mix it up and you give it to them, there's a very real possibility, because that animal's not going to eat a lot to begin with. They will sort through the food, and they will chew on the corn, or they will chew on just the hay, or they will chew on just the distiller grains. There's a very real possibility that they do that. And if they only chew on the hay, they won't get enough energy to meet their daily requirements. They won't their immune system will probably go downhill. If they sort through the feed and they only eat the corn, they'll have massive levels of acidosis. It'll cause all sorts of problems. And then if they sort through the feed and only eat the distiller grains, same situation. All right, massive levels of acidosis, all sorts of problems. And so, what I have found, in a situation like this, right, where I'm mixing a finely chopped alfalfa with a tiny little grain pellet, that's okay. But, well, even in this situation, I wouldn't really suggest doing that, but these animals, they're not the super highest risk animals. And, I mix a lot of alfalfa in with the commodity pellet. And so, and they're also on grass. They also have grass in the preconditioning pens. So, I would suggest using a total mixed ration commodity pellet for the smaller animals until they have developed their rumen. And once they have developed their rumen, then you can feed them. You can be more lenient on the feed. All right. But when they have an undeveloped rumen, unless you know what you're doing to a very high level, I would not even put them on grass. All right, I would not even put them on grass. If you have a tiny little calf, if you have a 250-pound calf, if you have a 350-pound calf, and you just brought that animal home from the sale barn, 350 pounds, you might be able to get away with it. But if they're 250 pounds, and you just brought them home from the sale barn, I wouldn't even put them on grass unless you know what you're doing to a very high level. Like, you thoroughly understand exactly what you're doing, more or less. All right. Because if you mess it up, that 250-pound animal, there's a very realistic possibility that the maternal antibodies in the animal are starting to fade, right? The animal is starting to have a reduced level of disease protection in their body. Their antibody levels are starting to fade. They're being stressed from having been weaned from the cow. Their rumen has not been properly developed, and then you put them on, and then if you put them on a feed, and especially if you have them with other animals, and that animal ends up getting acidosis, and then ends up getting sick, and now you have one sick animal, and that one sick animal turns into 3 sick animals, and the 3 sick animals turn into 7 sick animals, and next thing you know, you got this massive problem on your hands. And once the illness has spread, I mean, you're practically doomed. You're probably not going to be able to fix it. And you don't want to be in that situation. All right. And so, I would suggest, in terms of the feed that I utilize, it is a 14% protein, 55 NEG commodity pellet. That is a total mixed ration type feed. Okay, it is a complete diet. 14% protein, 55 NEG. Okay, net energy of gain. If you ask your dietitian, or if you ask your animal nutritionist when you go and you buy your commodity pellet, if you ask them what the NEG is and what the protein concentration is, they will tell you. And then also tell them that you want a total mixed ration type feed. You want a complete feed. All right. And that's the kind of feed that I would give the animal. Okay. Until they have been more developed. And once they've been developed, you can put them on the grass, and you can put them on corn and a little bit of distiller grains. And, you can be more lenient on the diet once the animal has developed the rumen. Okay. And so, I'm actually going to go and take a look at the new fields today. I got 2 fields that I'm looking at. And so, over the next 3 months, I got a lot of moving pieces, right? I got a lot of moving parts. Over the next 3 months, I will be liquidating all of my animals. I will effectively be converting all of my assets into cash. And then I will have to reconvert the cash back into assets. Okay, that's something that I got coming up. It's there's a lot of moving parts. Okay, the big idea is that right now, right now, I've been talking about this. I have about $500,000 liquid, right? I'm liquid about $500,000, all right? Somewhere, it may be a little bit less, and maybe a little bit more, all right? I got about $500,000 on me. And, the whole idea with this, the whole idea with this situation is not, oh my God, I have $500,000. I'm going to go and buy myself a Lamborghini, right? I'm going to go and buy myself a Rolex. That's not, what am I going to do with my money, right? Buy myself more real estate, and then buy myself more cattle. All right, that's what I'm doing with the money. I've already decided that this is what I will do. I will focus on making more money, because why not? All right, I'm not going to go and buy myself a Lamborghini and then buy myself a Rolex and then just, oh my God, now I can, spend, I got myself a Lamborghini and a Rolex, and I can spend $10,000 a week. And if I do that, it won't, I'm not going to go and do that. What am I going to do with my money? I talk about this in terms of money, in terms of the financial situation. From what I see, the most realistic thing to do with money is, number one, make more money. That use your money to make more money, and then number 2, reinvest that money. Take that money that you make and then make more money with it. So make more money with your money. All right, use your money to make more money. And then when you make more money, reinvest it. Put that money back into making more money. All right, that's what I do with my money. All right, I make money, I make more money, and then I take that money and then I reinvest it into making more money. I don't go, oh my God, now that I've made more money, let me go and buy myself a Lamborghini. I don't go, oh my God, now that I make more money, let me go and buy myself a Rolex. I don't do that stuff. What do? I take my money and then I make more money with it. That's the big idea. Make more money and then reinvest it. Invest your money. Very important. All right. You have to, if you do not invest your money, you're effectively doomed. I would bet, if you do not have any investments, I would take this bet with anybody. If you have 0 investments, you are probably borderline a bum. I would guarantee it. All right, financially, you're 1 foot away from being homeless all the time. I would be willing to bet. I would bet 10 to 1 with anybody. All right, if you do not have any investments, you are effectively 1 foot away from being a bum all the time. All right, you have one problem, and now your financial situation is completely doomed. I would be willing to bet. My whole thing, and over the next 3 months, I will have to convert all of my assets into cash, and then I will have to reconvert my cash back into assets. And when I do that, what effectively that's going to look like is that right now I have 45 animals. When I sell these 45 animals, I will probably make enough money to buy about 80, right? I will probably make enough money to buy about 85. And so I will go and I will sell my 45 animals. I will buy the 80 animals. And then I will also, at that point, probably leverage against my earnings as well. when I take a look at the whole situation, I would anticipate that over the next 3 months, I will have to purchase about 120 to 140 cattle, something like that, and a new piece of land. That's what I'm looking at. Okay, over the next 3 months, I will have to purchase about 120 to 140 cattle, and I will have to purchase a new piece of land. All right, and at that point, I will not even be leveraged 1-for-1 on my balance sheet. I will be under a 1-for-1 leverage on my balance sheet. That, you know, I will be under a 1-to-1 leverage on my balance sheet. Okay, you know, I'll be leveraging against my earnings. You know, okay, so in terms of a step-by-step thing, what's probably going to happen is that over the next month and a half, I will liquidate 19 out of my 45 animals. That will leave me with 26. And then those 26 animals will probably be profitable for another 2 or 3 months. And during that 2 or 3 months, I will have to stabilize another set of animals. So I will utilize the 26 animals that I have left on my balance sheet after I liquidate my 19 animals to stabilize my investment, and then bring in more animals during that time period while I am still making a profit on my stabilized herd. You know, and I talk about this all the time. Why would I do that? Because then there's a safety buffer in my business. I am under a 1-to-1 leverage because the 26 animals that I have are going up in value, and I am not leveraging against the unrealized gains. All right, the big idea is that I have these 26 animals, right? These 26 animals that I have left on my balance sheet. I effectively bring home all of my animals at an average weight of about 275 pounds. And by next month, they will probably weigh about 550. I will probably continue to make money on them for about 3 months. During that 3-month window, I will have to bring home another set of animals and stabilize the new set of animals so that when I liquidate my 26 animals, I can rinse and repeat all over again, right? I have a stabilized herd. That stabilized herd is going up in a certain amount of money. That money that is going up by every single month, I do not leverage against that. I leave that in the business as a safety margin, and then I leverage against the number of animals that I have. And when I do that, I will have a negative income. My income will be negative, which gives me good tax benefits, and my balance sheet will be leveraged under a 1-to-1. If I want to pay off all of my debt, I can pay it off whenever I want. All right, effectively, anytime that I feel like, you know, if I legitimately feel like I need to pay off all of my debt, I can just pay off all of my debt at any time. All right, so I am under a 1-to-1 leverage on my balance sheet, and I am leveraged over 100% of my income. I have effectively 125%, 150% of my income leveraged, but my balance sheet is leveraged under a 1-to-1. All right, and I've always talked about this in terms of tax benefits and stuff. Well, you know, first of all, make the money first. Okay, make the money first, and then number two, after you make the money. Oh, I just made $90,000. Go and start your business then. After you've made the money. All right, after you've made the money, then start your business. Then talk to an accountant about it. Talk to multiple accountants about it, and find one that specializes in your line of work. All right, talk to the accountant about it. I just made $90,000, and then I purchased $140,000 worth of this asset. Right, you know, I took my $90,000, I reinvested all of it, and then I took another $50,000 loan, and I purchased $140,000 worth of assets. What does my tax situation look like? Ask an accountant. That's how you figure it out. Oh, your income is actually going to be negative for the year. That's fantastic. 0 tax burdens. Legally, it's not tax evasion. Talk to your accountant about it. I'm not telling you to break the law. I'm not encouraging anyone to break the law. All right, I'm not encouraging anyone to break the law. I'm not encouraging you to break the law. I'm not telling you to do something illegal. This is how the game is played. All right, if you make some money, if you found a way to make some money, and then you start your business, you go on the internet to start a business. All you have to do is go on the internet and type in start an LLC in _state. So in my state, Texas, I would just go on the internet and just type in start an LLC in Texas, and it will take you to like this the Texas state website, some kind of a Texas government website. Okay, don't go to some third-party website. You'll usually be going to like some state government website, and then they will have a phone number thing and then you call that phone number, and then you just tell them your situation. Hey, I just whatever, I'm looking to start my business. I found a way to make some money, and I'm looking to get my business license. I want to start myself an LLC in my state. That's what I did. And they just sent me an email with a with a step-by-step thing on how to start my own LLC. All right, I called the state website. I said, I'm looking to start my business. I got a cattle ranch, and I'm making money, and I'm looking to get my business license. And then they sent me an email with step-by-step instructions on how to sign my business up for an LLC. It took me about half an hour. And then I had my LLC. I went to the bank. I opened up my bank account, my business bank account. All of the money that I make and all of the money that I use, I pull it out of that business account. And then I called an accountant. All right, I called several accountants. I called 3-4 accountants. I found one that specialized in farming, and then I asked them about my tax situation. They sat me down. They had a printout of this not a printout, but they had this template that they could just plug and chug numbers. And then I showed him my situation, and he just plugged in all the numbers, and boom, and it plugged and chugged all the numbers. And then I got to see what he was doing. And he just told me, your income is negative. And so I said, well, okay, this is a guy who obviously knows what he's doing, because my income is technically negative. I invest all of my money, and then I utilize debt to purchase more assets. My income should be negative, right? I mean, that's the whole point, right? I have a negative income, but my balance sheet is not leveraged more than 1-to-1. If I legitimately felt like paying off all of my debt, I could pay it off at any time, and I would still have money left over. All right, that's the big idea. I have a negative income, zero tax situation, legally zero tax situation. Go and ask an accountant about it. Don't take my word for it. I'm not telling you to do anything. All right, I would suggest talking to an accountant. That's what I did. I'm not even going to suggest anything. I spoke to an accountant about it, and that is what I figured out. That is what my accountant did. That is what happened when I went to the accountant and I did it. That's the best way for me to put it. Okay, my income is negative, but my balance sheet is under a 1-to-1 leverage. And so over the next 3 months, I will have to turn all of my assets into cash, and then I will have to reconvert my cash back into assets. And then at that point, I will also probably leverage against my earnings. Okay. And for me to do this, I will also need to buy a new piece of land, and I will go and look at a couple of new pieces of land today. And but I've already decided, the whole thing about my situation is that I've already decided that I will just go out and make more money. Okay. The whole thing is that, I sat here and I thought about it, and I was like, well, I got about $500,000, and, I probably make about $35,000 a month. I probably make about $30,000 a month, maybe a little bit more. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, well, what should I do, right? Because, I got about $500,000, and then I also make about $35,000 a month. And I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, what should I do? And I figured that what I would do is just grow the size of my business. Okay, I'm not going to go and buy myself a Lamborghini. I'm not going to go and buy myself a Rolex. And I'm not saying I'm a saint. I'm just, I don't know how else to, I'm just living proof, okay? I didn't, I make this massive amount of money, and I still drive the same car, and I still live in the same house, all right? I wouldn't, I don't, that's what I've decided to do, okay? That is what I have decided to do, and for whatever that may mean, that is just what I have decided to do. I did not buy myself practically anything. I'm sitting on about $500,000, and I make about $30,000 a month or $40,000 a month, maybe a little bit more. When I start liquidating these animals, my income is actually going to go upwards. And so, I sat there and I really thought about it. All right, I really thought about it. What should I do? Because I can effectively buy anything. Once because it's like you can effectively buy anything for about $500,000. If you have $500,000 liquid in the bank account, like my situation, I have about $500,000. I've saved about $500,000 in my various investments, and I make about $30,000 a month, $40,000 a month, something like that. You can effectively buy anything. I mean, I don't know how else to put this. I can effectively buy anything. If I go and I feel like buying myself a Lamborghini, I can just buy it. All right, if I feel like going and buying myself 140 cattle, I can just go and buy 140 cattle. If I feel like buying a $600,000 piece of $600,000 piece of real estate, I can just buy it. Effectively you can buy anything. And here's the thing, as time progresses, my money's actually going up. I'm actually making more money as time goes on. And I've spoken about this in terms of, the whole thing. Making money doing anything is not easy, especially not farming. I mean, maybe not even especially, but it doesn't matter what you do. If you go out and you try and make $40,000 a month, it's going to be hard no matter what. I mean, chances are that there is no easy way to make $40,000 a month. Okay, it's just not going to happen. All right. And I'm actually living proof of what can be done. All right. I have, this so far this year I've ran about 70 cattle, and these 70 cattle I've taken them from about 275, and I've been liquidating on an average of about 700, 750. You run the numbers and figure out how much money I make. All right. I run about 35 cattle at a time on my 10.5 acre field, at about 30 cattle at a time on a 10.5 acre field. And I run about 2.5, 3 lot of cattle a year. You figure out how much money I make. All right. You sit there and you think about it. I mean, this is not some debatable thing, right? And I was talking about this yesterday. I actually do it. All right. I actually do it. And tomorrow when I go and buy fertilizer, I'll probably put about a half a tonnage of fertilizer on this 10.5 acre field. A half a tonnage of fertilizer will cost like $325. It'll cost like $325. All right. And how do I figure out that price? I mean, go on the internet and look up the price of urea. Urea is a global commodity. You can look it up. It's on the stock market. Or call a local fertilizer bin, a local fertilizer yard, and call them and ask them if they wholesale fertilizer, commodity fertilizer. Ask them, how much do you charge for a tonnage of urea? Just ask them, right? I mean, and then they will tell you, oh, it's a tonnage of urea is about $625. Right? That's how you figure it out. Or just go on the stock market and look it up. I mean, granted that, depending on your local area, it's going to be a little bit different depending on where you are, right? And so, I don't, me fertilizing my entire field, this entire 10.5 acre field will cost like $325. All right. It'll cost like $325. All right. And I run about 30, 40 cattle on it at a time, effectively all the time, 2 or 3 lot of cattle a year. All right, that I actually do this stuff. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm here to show you that it's possible, because at the end of the day, there is a very realistic, and I'm telling you just from just whatever, because it is what it is. Okay, I don't know how else to. I don't sugarcoat things, and I just tell you straightforward. There is a very real possibility that if you ever go out and try and do something like this, or if you ever go out and set yourself to do something like this, chances are you are just going to encounter a bunch of BS from every direction. Fertilizer, oh my God, I have this opinion about fertilizer. I have this opinion about antibiotics. I have this opinion about farming. I have this opinion about, growing, about feeding your animals grain. I have this opinion about everything. And it's all a bunch of BS. I am telling you, at the end of the day, I actually do this stuff, and I would encourage that other people make it too. I would encourage that you make it. All right. I showed you that it's possible. I make, okay, and I make about 20,000, something like that, $15,000 to $20,000 a month on a 10.5 acre field running commercial cattle. I make more money than that right now because I have a lease property that I'm making more money on. Okay, I make more money than that. My income right now is probably about $35,000, $40,000 a month. That's my take-home pay. That's how much money I bring home. All right, and and I've already told you the whole idea of getting a lease property and the dividend payout, and don't pay anything up front, and everything, right? I told you how I structured that deal as well. And so I actually did it. All right, fertilizing this field, maybe it costs $350 a month. If I were going to farm a 10.5 acre field for the rest of my life, if I were going to farm this field for the rest of my life, and that was the big idea, my business would cost me about $1,500 a month, whatever that, $18,000 a year, and it would make me about $200,000 to $240,000. So I just take the $18,000 that I need to run my business out of the $200,000 that my business makes. That's how you run the business. All right, granted that you are purchasing your cattle at appraisal value, you are purchasing the right type of cattle, and you have appraised your animal properly, and you are raising them to a commercial standard. Granted that those things happen, you can get your money back for your animals whenever you want, because cattle are a global commodity. It is effectively stabilized by the entire beef market. All right, the beef market is a massive industry, massively equitable, large amounts of money in it. It is very stable. You can get your money, you can liquidate your asset whenever you want and just get your money back. All right, that's how it works when you have assets that are equitable. Number one, you have a very equitable asset, and number two, you have a good asset, right? That's the whole part about having a good asset. If you have a good asset, you should be able to, appraise that asset properly. It should have a massive market, and you should be able to get your money back for your asset whenever you feel like it. That's the big idea. That's what, and also when you have assets, and you purchase you talk to your accountant about it, and you figure out, does your asset give you a tax benefit, right? And if you can find an asset that gives you a tax benefit, is very equitable, a good asset, and you can knowledgeably appreciate the value of that asset, you can effectively just grow a massive amount of wealth. I actually managed to make about $20,000, something about $15,000-$20,000 a month on a 10.5 acre field. I actually managed to do it. I actually do this stuff in real life. This is not my opinion. I actually do this stuff in real life. And if you want to figure out how much money I make, then you figure it out, right? I mean, I run about 35 cattle at a time, and I run about 2 or 3 lot of cattle on this field every single year. I mean, it's this 5th month of the year, and I'll be liquidating about 70 animals, for the year in the next 3 months. How much money do you think I make? I mean, you sit there and think about it. Right? I mean, this is not some debatable thing. Money is not an opinion. I don't, if you think money's an opinion, you're an idiot. Nobody cares about your opinion. I actually do this stuff in real life. All right, I actually do this. I mean, I don't know how else to tell you this. I actually do this. And, and at the end of the day, it's whatever. I have enough money to buy anything. I can already buy anything. All right, borderline anything short of like drugs, alcohol, gambling, a yacht, a jet. Short of anything like that, I can effectively buy anything. If I want to go and buy 140 cattle, if I want to go and buy 120 cattle, I can just go and buy 120 cattle. All right, if I feel like buying myself a piece of land, I can just buy myself a piece of land. If I feel like, buying a $600,000 piece of land, I can just buy it. All right, I can effectively buy anything already. And my income is actually going up. All right, it doesn't matter. I mean, nobody's paying me to do anything. Opinions don't matter to me. Even if it's, 100,000 bums with the same opinion, it won't matter to me. And I'm not saying that to be a malicious person, because it's like you have to put yourself in my situation, right? I put in all of this effort, and I do all of this work. I'm sitting here really doing the best that I can to, and improving my situation, and, taking care of the environment and raising these animals, to the best, to some of the best standards the world has ever seen. And I'm making all of this money. Do you think I'm going to go, oh my God, 100,000 bums all have the same opinion, and do I look like I'm not going to care? I will sit here and make the money by myself. If I will legitimately sit here and be rich by myself, if that is what it comes down to, I will do it. And I'm not saying that to be a malicious person. Right? I mean, I'm putting in all this effort, to take care of my environment, to take care of the animals the best that I can, and make all this money. And I'm doing all this stuff, and I do it effectively all by myself. Not from a selfish perspective. I'm saying, I'm not saying I learned all this stuff, because a lot of this stuff I had to figure out by reading books and, taking information from people that run, very high level commercial operations, and et cetera, et cetera. But I put in all of this effort, and I'm making all this money. Do you think, oh my God, it's 100,000 bums, and and they all have the same opinion, and they all disagree with you? Do you think I'm going to go out of my way to just be like, oh my God, well, these 100,000 bums disagree with me, I should just go and change what I'm, do you think I'm going to do that? All right, if it comes down to it, I will just make the money by myself. All right, I make a massive amount of money. It doesn't even, I don't know how, nobody's offering me anything. All right, not in terms of money. Nobody's offering me anything. I can already buy anything. You know, I don't know how else to put it. All right, you know, I'm not saying that to be a horrible person. I mean, I can already buy anything, just about. I mean, you know, and I didn't go and just, you know, YOLO, right? I talk about this. You don't want to be in a situation where you're YOLOing your money. Oh my God, you know, now that I have a $500,000 and I'm making $30,000 a month, let me go and buy myself a Rolex and a Lamborghini. That's ridiculous, all right? What did I do with my money? I just sat there and I thought about it. What should I do with my money? What's the direction that I would like to go with my life? I'll expand the size of my business. I'll put the money back into my business. That's what I will do. All right, I'm not going to go and buy myself a Lamborghini and a Rolex. All right, you know, I'm not going to go, oh my God, now's my chance to, go on a vacation and live in Dubai. And I'm just going to, I sat there and I thought about it for like 3 months. What should I do with my money? I'm making this massive amount of money. What should I do? Right, I will put the money back into my business. And that, from what I have seen with money, that is like the most, logical thing to do with money. Make more money with it and then reinvest it. That's like the most logical thing. Improving your car is a ridiculous, you know, you don't want to be doing these ridiculous things. Oh my God, mate, I got myself some more money, so I bought myself a better car. Oh my God, I got myself some more money, so I went and bought myself a little bit of a bigger house. You don't want to be in a situation like that. I made money, I made more money, and then I invested it into a good asset that produced me a positive return. And then I just sat there and I thought about it. You know, I have all this money now, and what should I do with it? Reinvest it, make more money with it, buy good assets. All right. That's from what I have seen. That is the most logical thing to do with money. And when I did that, I actually feel better about my whole situation. All right, I'm not, because I'm not, whatever, right? I'm not a saint, and but that's what I did, and I actually feel good about my whole money situation. I feel good about it, about just about everything. I'm not a horrible, I've even spoken about this. I'm not like in a situation where I'm, I'm not, depressed. I'm not like, oh my God, now I have such a massive amount of money, I'm depressed. That's ridiculous. I'm not depressed. Oh my God, I made such a massive amount of money, now I'm depressed. That's ridiculous, all right? If anything, you're going to be depressed when you're poor. All right, you'll be depressed when you don't have money. There's a very realistic possibility that you will be more depressed if you have no money than if you have a massive amount. Granted that you did not sell your soul to the devil for the money. If you sold your soul to the devil for the money, then I've always said that you can't save an idiot from themselves. You can't save an idiot from themselves. All right, you're you wherever you go, and if you sold your soul to the devil for money, even if you have money, you'll effectively be you, and then you'll probably be depressed. All right, that may be one possibility for becoming depressed with money, but me, I'm not depressed because I made such a massive amount of money. That's ridiculous. All right, if you legitimately think that making money is going to make you depressed, you're probably an idiot. If you do not sell your soul to the devil for the money and you make a large amount of money, like, I didn't sell my soul. I'm in the beef cattle business. All right, I'm in the beef cattle business. I put in a lot of effort to take care of my environment. I put in a lot of effort to take care of my animals, and I make a large amount of money. I'm not depressed because I make a massive amount of money. I'm not depressed. Trust me, I'm not. Or don't trust me, I don't care. Die poor, with your worthless opinion. Have fun. All right, having a massive amount of money is not going to make you depressed. That's ridiculous. All right. I would encourage that, if you want to go and learn how to farm, then go and learn how to farm. I fell out of heaven at 7, and my life's magical journey is not going to turn into a kumbaya adventure for you. You're actually going to have to learn how to do it like everybody else. And when it comes to something like this, you have to understand that from just what I have seen, I have not seen anybody to this day do 10%. To this day, I have not seen it. honest to God, I have not seen anybody do 10%. I make about $200,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field running commercial cattle, maybe about 240. I don't know anybody even making $24,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field. Most people cannot make $200,000 a year on a 500 acre field. All right, legitimately. And I make $240,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field by myself. Just me and one tractor. All right, legitimately, I grow the grass by myself. I go and buy the cattle by myself. I raise the cattle. More or less, I do 99% of it by myself. I run the business by myself, everything. All right, more or less. All right, 98% of it gets done by me. Most people cannot make this amount of money on 500 acres. I actually do this stuff in real life. All right, and I'm gonna go and take a look at that new piece of property. And but here's one of the big animals. He's probably going to be going to market here very soon. This big black one right there. He's probably going to market here in about 2 or 3 weeks. But I'll be turning all of my assets back into cash, and then I'll be turning all of my cash back into assets again over the next 3 months, and I will re-leverage myself. And I've decided to just make more money. All right, as of today, I make about I would say that when I take a look at it, I probably make about $35,000-$40,000 a month. That's about how much money I bring home. Okay, and I would say that over the next by the end of the year, my income will end the year closer to $1 million and $250. Okay, I've actually increased my income by about 20% over the last 2 weeks. And and I'm actually rolling forward with the whole thing. And if if it comes down to trust me, I don't care about your opinions. At the end of the day, if it comes down to it, I will be rich by myself. Do I maliciously do I maliciously hope that people end up poor? No, I don't. All right, if anything, I do all this because it's maybe somebody wants to actually go and become a farmer. Somebody actually wants to be a farmer, and if you want to go and become a farmer, I can show you how to do it. It will take a long time and it will take a lot of effort, but understand that I actually made it. All right, I make about $250,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field. I make about $200,000, $250,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field. Okay, I actually managed to do it. And and I am showing you how to do it. And if you want to become a farmer, because at the end of the day, I fell out of heaven at 7 and my life's a magical journey. It's not going to get you anywhere. You're actually going to have to learn how to do this stuff. Nobody cares about your opinion. All right, okay, because here's another way to put it. Let's say you're watching my channel, and let's say that because in terms of a capitalistic society, the person who does the best effectively gets the most opportunity. So let's say that we're in a situation where you and me get put on a field, and they say, whoever does the best gets the money. Whoever does the best gets the money, and you and me get put on a field. I would eat you alive. I can almost guarantee it. All right, and you don't want to be in that situation where you just get eaten alive, because then you will have no opportunities. All right, you have to become a capable individual. If you do not become a capable individual, nobody cares about your opinions, and nobody. All right, even nobody. I mean, you will legitimately nobody will give you anything, and then you'll die poor. All right, so you have to actually learn how to do this stuff, how to grow grass, how to run a business, how to run cattle. You actually have to learn how to do this stuff. I fell out of heaven at 7 and my life's a magical journey. Nobody cares. If you were put on a field with me and said, whoever does the best gets the money. If that's the situation that you're in, you're probably boned. I would eat you alive. Legitimately, I would eat you alive. You would look like a bum. And you don't want to be in that situation, because then you will have no opportunity. All right, you have to actually learn how to farm. All right, and this is very, like me, I run a multi-million-dollar farming business by myself. If you cannot perform, if you cannot grow the grass, if you cannot run the cattle, if you cannot run the business, then guess what? You're going to end up with nothing. You know, life is not a Disneyland adventure. Nobody's going to come swooping in to save you. All right, you will legitimately end up with nothing. That's what's going to happen. Your life is not going to turn into a magical adventure. And learning how to do this stuff takes a long time, and it's very complicated and it's very difficult. All right, you know, and the only way to work through these things is to start practicing. Go and buy yourself a small piece of land, a 20-acre piece of land. Go and buy yourself a 10-acre piece of land, something like that. If you buy yourself a 20-acre piece of land, it will cost you about $1,000 a month. If you fertilize that 20 acres, even if you mess it up, as long as you are going in the right direction and you are practicing, and you're, you know, because the whole idea is that you don't want your fundamentals to be incorrect. If your fundamentals are incorrect and you build upon those fundamentals, you are doomed. If you think that antibiotics are bad, you're doomed. If you think that fertilizer is bad, you are doomed. If you think that whatever, you know, you have to be a horrible person to make money, you're doomed. You don't want to be on a bad fundamental basis. All right, you know, antibiotics are not bad. Imagine that if you went to a doctor and the doctor told you that antibiotics were bad and that they don't use antibiotics you would never go to that doctor again. All right, you know, a fertilizer is not bad. You know, you're effectively taking, mineral rocks and concentrating them and then putting them in the field. And when you put them in the field, they are physically absorbed by the plant material and metabolized. They don't just go through your environment and just obliterate your environment. The plants uptake those minerals and then metabolize them to grow their physical structure. All right, the plants will actually absorb these minerals. Right, you know, I mean, you know, money is not going to make you miserable, and money is not bad. If you sell your soul to the devil for money, then sure, money turns into kind of this, you know, but then again, money's not bad. You are bad. I mean, you are a bad person. I mean, you know, the person is a bad person. The money's not bad. The money is just whatever. It's an object. It doesn't matter. All right, you know, money is not bad. Fertilizer is not bad. Antibiotics are not bad. I mean, it depends on the situation. All right, fertilizer can actually improve your environment. Antibiotics can actually save your animals from dying. Money can actually be reinvested to further humanity. All right, there is no sharing the pie. All right, there is no sharing the pie. You know, giving everybody, you know, because you cannot just give everybody a piece of pie. All right, that's not how it works. All right, you know, that's not how it works. I mean, you know, they're legitimately almost everybody. If you gave them money and they have a lot of problems, they will just end up having more problems with the money. Chances are the money is not going to improve their situation. If anything, it can make their situation worse. All right, you know, nobody cares about your opinions. All right, nobody cares about an opinion. If you don't learn how to do anything, and then, you know, you will effectively just end up being a bum for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, and then nobody will help you, nobody will save you. Right, and then, you know, you and your buddy pup pals can have your moron megazord, and then congratulations, now you're all just going down together. All right, you know, actually go and be successful. Okay, go and be successful, learn how to do something. You know, make yourself a lot of money, and then, you know, and then go and do well for yourself, all right? But I guarantee it, if you put me on a field with practically anybody on the entire planet, practically anybody, and the goal was whoever does the best will get the money. If that is that is effectively capitalism. If you gave everybody the same opportunity, and you said whoever does the best gets the money, I would effectively eat everybody alive. It wouldn't even be close. It would not even be close. I would effectively eat everybody alive. I can almost guarantee it. All right, and you don't want to be in a situation where you're getting eaten alive. All right, you know, go and actually learn how to do this stuff, okay? Put in some time, put in some effort, or don't, and then end up a bum. All right, you choose. You can choose whichever, you know, but you're not, there is no magical adventure. Oh, maybe if I don't choose one of those, I can go on a magical adventure. Then see what happens. Farming is not easy. Farming is very difficult, and it's going to take a long time to learn how to do it. Your opinions don't matter. I actually do this stuff in real life. And I am here to tell you that it is possible. I actually made about $250,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field running commercial cattle. I made about $250,000 a year on a 10.5 acre field. I actually managed to do it. All right, and so that's, you'll get that from me, okay? I am here to tell you that it is possible, because almost everybody will just give you a bunch of BS your entire life. You'll get BS about everything, money, anything. Cattle, farming, everything. Just a complete nonsensical, worthless stuff. But I am here to tell you that, it is possible. You can actually do it too. I actually managed to do it. All right, and that's it for me today, YouTube. Y'all have a good one.